Hi guys, welcome to my third video tutorial on CodeSpells spellcrafting. In this tutorial we're going to look at Boolean expressions, which will allow us to execute certain sections of code under certain conditions. To do that, we're going to make a spell called checkDistance, and when we cast the spell, it's going to fire an orb, and when it hits something, it will stop and set its color either to green or red, depending on how far away it is from the caster. We will do the same thing when we press the F key to activate it. Okay, so let's get into it. We're going to create a new spell, fire, we call it checkDistance. Initially we want the orb to move fast, and when it hits something we want it to stop. We're also going to initially set the orb's color to cyan, just to make it different from the other colors that we're going to use later. By the way, this block here allows you to change the orb's color. Okay, so once it hits something, we want to check how close it is to the caster and then change its color accordingly. To do that, I'm going to go down here to logic, if, and I'm going to choose this if do else block. And I'm going to start it in here. What this block does is it evaluates a conditional statement or a Boolean statement that you plug in here by the if. If that statement evaluates to true, it will execute all the code put in the do section here. Otherwise, it will execute all the code in the else section. Okay, so what do I mean by Boolean expression? If I go down here to Boolean, here's a bunch of Boolean expressions and operators. I'm going to use this top one. What this does is it compares two values and returns true or false depending on the expression. So in our case we're going to use greater than, the greater than operator. So it's going to check if the number on the left is greater than the number on the right. If that is true, then it will return true to the if block, and it will then execute all the code in the do section. If it is not true, then this if block will execute all the code in the else section. Okay, so I need to compare two numbers. The first number is going to be the orb's distance from the player. The second number is going to be a number that I define, and that's going to be the minimum distance from the player before we turn the orb red. And in this case I'm going to set it to 10. Okay, so again, this block is going to check that the orb's distance from the player is greater than 10. If that is true, then it's going to execute the code here. If it is false, then it's going to execute the code here. Okay, so if it's true, we want to set the orb's color to red. So I'm just going to copy and paste that in there and change that to red. If it's false, we want to set the orb's value to green, or orb's color rather, to green. Okay, and just to make things easier, we're going to also do the same thing when we press the F key. So I'm just going to copy this whole section of code into the onActivate event. Okay, so let's test this out. Actually, let's just set the mana to 1, because this doesn't actually use much mana. Okay, so if I cast an orb, if it's far away from me, or greater than 10 meters, it'll turn red. If it's close, it'll turn green. So if I cast a whole bunch, we get a sort of an area effect that shows where I am. And if I press F, each orb will check its distance from me and update its color accordingly. So that's kind of a nice effect. And you can use this code to create sort of explosives that only explode if they're far away from you, so that you don't get caught up in your own spells. So I'm repeatedly pressing F here. Okay, one last thing. I mentioned earlier that the if statement evaluates Boolean expressions, but you can also just use any Boolean value, which means a value that has either true or false. So if I go down here to Boolean, there's just a pure Boolean value here, gives either true or false. So if I just plug that in there, this expression will work, but in this case, it'll always be true, so it'll always just do this bit of code, and it will never do this bit of code. But you can plug in Boolean variables here, and you can update them in other areas of your code, and then just use them here in your if statement. So I'm going to delete that again and plug this back. Oops. Plug this back in here. Okay, so that's the end of this tutorial. In the next tutorial, I'm going to introduce functions, which will allow us to clean up this code a bit by creating one function that contains this bit of code, and then we can just call this function twice, so that we don't have to copy and paste this whole chunk of code each time we want to use it. That will also allow us to execute this code we'll probably make it every quarter of a second, so that the orb's colors update as we move, and we don't have to press the F key each time. Thanks for watching.